I am John Billingsley, and you are watching Trek Culture.
Hello, my friends, and welcome to Cargo Bay 101, which, by the way, we borrowed from George Orwell's 1984, not the popular television show on BBC, just to be very clear about that for legal reasons. This week, we are inviting our wonderful guest, Eddie, to take something from all of Star Trek, put it in the cargo bay, and then convince us to push the big red button that I have on my tricorder. Eddie, what do you have for us?
I'm putting in short, expensive 10 episode a year seasons of Star Trek. That's what I'm putting in.
Okay. I am very interested to hear what you have to say.
Okay,
Yeah.
lay it out for us.
This is something that I think that quite a lot of people are mad about with Star Trek, especially when it's good and they like it. Where is it? Where's more of it? I've got to wait a full year for an additional 10 episodes. And it's like, when they explain why, it's like, well, it's really cinematic. There's so many great expensive effects. And you're watching the episodes, like Strange New Worlds. A lot of those like really cool, intricate cinematic effects are done over captain's logs and stuff. And it's like, like how many like scenes of actors just sitting in a room, like given with great dialogue and like tension and just scenes we could have had instead of all of that. I'm really, really jealous of all that stuff we never got.
Eddie, I could kiss you right now. I completely agree. I don't care how much money you've spent on it. Is the show good or not? There's been this weird shift. I think once like CGI and, the boom of CGI and also film cameras became so good, or digital film cameras became so good and crisp that we started, using them more and more, and it was made easier to use them in every kind of TV show and film. Number one, I don't think that's a good idea. I like film. I'm not saying that everything should be on film, but I think the more crisp kind of cameras we've been getting and using makes everything feel a bit kind of strange. Like just because something looks real doesn't mean it looks good, basically. And we've been going this projection with all those things that I think we're putting money in the wrong place, basically. And it's the other thing of like there's a saying within the arts which I've now completely forgotten, but it's basically, restraint is good. If you have only a certain amount of budget, only a certain amount of money, you can only do so many things. That makes you have to be creative. So having money to splash on these, like you said, these sweeping shots over Captain's log, or how many times can we see a black hole in Strange New Worlds? Many times. Yes, it looks nice. I want to see something else. Like, we're focusing on things. Oh, the sets are really big. This is the biggest set ever. Make it smaller. How about make it smaller, though? What have you thought about that? It's like you said, I'm going to keep saying it, but it is focusing on the wrong things. We're blessed to live in an age where we get to see Star Trek in such a different kind of way, but it's just, I think the focus is off, really.
Well, I mean, if you've like Who fans will know, like there's been like that whole Disney thing. That was an insane cash injection where the episodes got really cinematic, and there's like a big hangover from it now, where people are kind of nostalgic for the washing up liquid villains and stuff. Like just the really shoddy,
You're
planking
so
a passion
right.
style.
Like, I mean, there's definitely a period of Doctor Who's history where every episode was done by Neil Buchanan on art tech. Do you know what I mean? Like, that's just what the effects were. And it was fine because there is a suspension of disbelief that we bring into sci-fi. We know the Daleks aren't coming to get us. Do you know what I mean? It's a big pepper pot. We know that. But we invest in it. Similarly, look at the M113 Salt Vampire from the Man Trap, which is an iconic design, and it's and not to take away from the design, but like it's some fur, with a mask that was probably thrown together with, a bit of paper mache. Again, I'm not talking down the design of it. But what I'm saying is that you had the tools available to you at the day. And you said, Eddie, as well, which I completely agree with, is that Star Trek has so many scenes of people sitting in rooms talking.
Mm-hmm. That's
where Trek is, I think, at its strongest. And that's true of the films as it is of the TV series. And I think because television has changed. I mean, like, you watched it through the years of Game of Thrones, but it was changing before that already. The HBOing of television. Because there is so much, increase in budgets, effects are so much, I won't say better than they were before. It's very different, you know what I mean? We are capable of doing more with effects now. But I think sometimes, and maybe Strange New Worlds is particularly guilty, for want of a better word, of this, but it's like, we're going to spend X amount on the effects this week to have 10 new shots of the Enterprise and these spacefaring things and the battle and everything. And then I think of Encounter at Farpoint, where ILM came in and filmed that model of the Enterprise, and for pretty much 2 seasons, they reused footage. And it works. Honestly, it works. Maybe they would have done it differently if there was, again, if the cash was there, if it was being filmed in ILM's headquarters. Maybe they would have done it differently, but I don't think, certainly those first 2 seasons, I don't think we lose anything from not having big, mad space-faring things, or, okay, Q-Who looked amazing. Some of that was reused footage of the ship, obviously they filmed the cube and stuff like that. So that's something. It sounds like I'm arguing for Star Trek to get lazy, but I'm not saying that. But like, you don't have to create 27 new shots of the ship in every single episode.
In Salat Who Ate Its Own Tail, like, there's some really expensive shots that I wish weren't in it and stuff. Like the TARDIS is in it, for example, but the really cool, like, HBO style shots that are in it are of Kirk when he's sort of with this new crew, and he's like, oh my god, they're not listening, and he's just totally in himself, and they're looking at him like, oh, they're kicking him like, oh, is he going to work? We've got a dud captain. And like, those shots, those are creative, and those are like more advanced than your basic coverage, but they're of characters. Like, it's explaining a dynamic with it, it's doing something cool. Like, I'm fine with those, but it's like, we need more of those.
I mean, I've also, with what you guys have been saying, Eddie would probably maybe understand this as well, which is, I feel like I can go to an old episode of Star Trek and very easily, or an old season, very easily find shots of ships that I'm looking for. And with new seasons of Star Trek, like Strange New Worlds, you might get a couple of quick shots of the ship, but it's not all the time, and it's not the same kind of shot that you're looking for.
It's like blurred frames.
Yeah, it's blurry, It's weird. It's like I just want a clear shot of it moving left to right. And it's like, I actually can't find that in the episode. There's a weird, they've changed their focus on what they actually want to show. And there's also a big discussion about practical and visual effects, right? And, practical effects, you could go into a studio and film a model of a ship every which way possible, and then you've got it banked for however long you want to use it. I might be wrong, but I'm assuming it's more difficult now to be like, hey, we needed this shot. Do we have that we can just copy and paste from a previous episode? If not, we need to recreate the entire, whatever. So, and if you think about Strange New Worlds, what are the effects that people always talk about in Strange New Worlds at the moment? It's the practical effects of the Gorn. That's the one that everyone loves.
Yeah.
I don't know enough. I've always kind of assumed that practical is cheaper than special effects, but from what I hear about from the industry, that we use visual effects because it is cheaper, not just because making it is cheaper, but it means you can more quickly do things that you need to change. Yeah. I don't know how true that is. My gut says it's not true, or it's not worth it. I always want to smack producers around the head and go, just use practical effects because everyone actually likes it. But I don't know how true that actually is. But that's what's popular. And like with what you were saying, Eddie, as well, which is like, the more interesting shots that we had with Kirk and all that. If you go back and think of a simple episode of TNG, you might have a static shot, and you got a two shot, and it doesn't change for ages, and you got people walking to and from the camera, and someone might sit down and get back up again, and by the time you've cut into a different shot, it sometimes it could be like 3 minutes long. And I've said to you guys, when my edit brain kind of kicks in when I'm watching these kind of shows, because I like to look at a simple setup of two people talking in a room, and they will cut between 5 different shots of the same thing over and over again. Your brain can't even keep track of what's going on or where, and you're like, they're trying to make it exciting. The camera is always moving. In their heads, they're going, well, this has to be exciting. Something I learned very early on in editing when I was at film school is to show off that I went to film school. No, if you're having to cut away all the time for something, it's because what you're shooting isn't interesting enough. Now, that doesn't mean it's true for everything, but for a simple thing like that, if you think that these people talking in the room isn't interesting enough, that you can have to cut around a million different shots of the same thing, you got to rewrite it. You got to rethink it. And I think that's the basis of what you're saying of like, hey, I'm glad we've got these very expensive episodes, but they're not doing the job that a cheaper show could be doing.
Yeah, when you've got like those like ready room scenes, like all you really need to do, if the scene and the discussion is good, is just have the camera be like at table level so people feel like they're in the meeting, and then just present the information to the characters and just do some really simple back and forth shots. And that's it. That's all you'd need to do. I think it's just a case of they're willing to painstakingly go for like really nice imagery, and when it comes to like the scenes and the scripts, they're like, yeah, that'll do. Whereas before, that'll do would be for reusing footage. So I think their energies have been diverted.
That's really interesting. Actually, I that's a really interesting take, because it's the kind of what is it? It's from Star Trek 6, the president going, just because one can do a thing, it does not necessarily follow that one must do that thing.
Yeah.
And I think that's really good. I think it's what, Tom, what you were saying about, like, holding on, a scene and cutting away and having 5 or 6 different shots of 2 people sitting in a chair as opposed to just leaving the camera run. Imagine Chain of Command, where you had Picard and Gul Madred sitting there, and part of the power is it doesn't pull away. It doesn't give you that breath to change your angle, to change everything. It's like, this is uncomfortable and it's meant to be uncomfortable.
Yeah.
And so we're not going to pull away.
The reveals, like, it uses the staticness of the shot to do like reveals in that, where it cuts from like tender moments with like a grandfather and his granddaughter being like lovely, and then the camera will just like subtly move because one of the characters moved and there's a tortured man in a spotlight.
Yeah. There's a pacing within the editing of itself. You're supposed to sit and watch how this happens. If you think, say for example, in a horror film, a lot of times you have that static shot that zooms in or slowly focuses on this like dark spot, and it's building up this tension, and you're wondering what's going to happen. Imagine if they filmed that spot with 5 different cameras and constantly cut, and you would be like, wait, what? I'm not scared anymore. I don't know really what's going on. It's that same thing. It's the famous one in one of the Taken films where Liam Neeson jumps over a fence, and they shot it with like, I think there's like 14 cuts or something. It's just him jumping over a fence. It's like you've taken away what could have been a cool moment by cutting so many times. I want to just recommend this quickly to people who are interested in editing within films. There's a great channel. I haven't checked it out for a moment. They've got some new things. Every Frame a Painting, and they have a bunch of videos talking about editing and film, etc. And there's one on Hong Kong movies, specifically Jackie Chan, like Hong Kong action films. And it's called How to Do Action Comedy, and it talks about how they edit the actual action, and that's a really good way to know like when to cut, when not to cut. And it also you know, again, you can think of those moments where Jackie Chan jumps up a wall, and you're like, how did he do that? Imagine if they cut in a million times, seeing every foot, every detail. It doesn't matter anymore. You've lost the momentum that you could have from that single shot. So I feel like we've gone like deep into the weeds with this, but I do think it's an issue not just with Star Trek, but just with where we're at the moment with our media and how it's being filmed and produced. There was a thing the other day, again, I don't know how true this is, but it was, I want to say Jamila Jamil.
I'm glad you brought this up. I know exactly what you're talking about.
I've seen this, yeah.
Yes, where, so for the audience, it was something along the lines of producers are now telling writers of shows to write in a way that if people are on their phone not paying attention to the show, they can understand what's going on. So that's why everything is really obvious in the writing anymore. And I heard that, and I wanted to say that can't be true, but I wouldn't be surprised.
They had a saying in the inside baseball of wrestling of everyone is short attention span theatre now. And that presided over like a really bad creative period in wrestling. So that's a really cynical viewpoint that I think hurts work product that people are trying to entertain people with.
Yeah, that I can't even imagine how that could be a thing in wrestling. Like, how could you add that into wrestling thinking people aren't interested in what's going on?
It's the whole short attention span thing is stupid on its face. It's like people, they tune into stuff, they access media and entertainment, they're like, because the thing that it's about interested them.
Yeah. I've always said
oh, is it quick? They didn't do it. Oh, is it about space? Is it about dinosaurs? I'm in.
Yeah. It's something that is always said, like how media is being made at the moment, but I think it comes from the top people, you know, the producers of these shows, who assume something about how the world is at the moment and uses that to create the media. And I always think
they don't live in.
No, like, human beings don't actually act this way. Like, you don't have to do this thing. You've just decided that's what we have to do now.
We really went in the weeds in this one. So I think safe to say, yep, we're in agreement. I think that one topic is about 27 little different topics as well. But I do think it does go back into it's the shorter seasons, you know, where there's more to do with less time to do it. Which has kind of fed into much more scenes, much more shots. The sort of, we've covered it. Yes, I think we're with you on that one, because as well, I think in general, the idea of shorter seasons, we kind of have airlocked that one, but I think we've gone through a bit more specific reasons with this one. So everything we just covered is going out the airlock. I've decided I have my tricorder with my red button, which you can just about see, and I am going to push that. Here we go. Hi, I'm Duncan Rillick, no relation, and I collect relics from before the burn. Thanks to a temporal wormhole, I now have an unlimited supply of TrekCulture t-shirts, and I'm selling them to you! You could be wearing this stylish down and up t-shirt. Or, how about this fish watching design? Bright yellow on black, the colors I'd use in thumbnails, I tell you that for nothing. I plan to take these designs and transfer them via quantum duplication onto hats, mugs, and posters. So look out for those. Treat this unlimited supply as a limited time deal. Get your t-shirt quick. Who's your daddy? Thank you so much for watching along. Did you know that you can also listen in and catch every episode of our podcast just by following the link in the description below this video? Please make sure that you subscribe to the channel, and please make sure you're following us on the various socials. Till I see you again, look after yourselves, make sure that you live long and prosper.